Hey guys, we got a pretty unique project for you today. We're going to be converting a wood deck to a stone deck, and we're going to be using a product called Silca systems, and this allows you to take a standard timber frame deck and turn it into a stone or brick patio, and we're going to walk you through step by step how you can do this. Now, one of the reasons why you'd even want to consider doing something like this is simple, because it offers your customer more options, more flexibility, more versatility. When you can go out there and you can not just offer your customer a standard wood deck, but a stone deck as well, you may land an extra job. Guys, for the Silca system, it starts out just like any other timber frame deck or wood frame deck. 12 inches on center, your standard deck construction, but a few things you got to be aware of. Your joists have to be perfectly level. If you got any of this rocking motion going in it, you've got to correct that before you can lay down the next step. The true flat level is one of the basic components that you got to start out with. But once you've got that down, then it's just a simple grid system that connects 12 inches, or is it 16 inches? Isn't it 16? It's on center, but we do one other step before we can lay the grid system down, and I want to show you what that is. I'm going to take you in real close right now, guys. We can see that all of the rafters are wrapped with a membrane. And let's go find out exactly what that membrane is called. Okay, so this is the guy that actually created this. What is this called and what is its function?
Joist tape.
Joist tape. And why do you, Mike, why do you got to use that?
Typically what it does is it'll extend the life of the joist. You're reducing the amount of water laying on the wood. It's laying on another product that's water resistant. Okay. So your joist and your deck therefore last longer.
So there's a couple extra steps that I see with this system so far. We've got the membrane that goes over the framing. Then you've got the grate, which is the extra step on top of that. Right. Then you have a membrane that goes over the top of the grate system.
Specifically for tile. Belgard had asked us to come up with an idea of deadening the sound. The porcelain pavers have sort of a ringing, clicking sound to them. So they asked us to come up with an idea of deadening that sound. Well, with the Silca mat, it deadens the sound. It's also permeable, so the water still goes through, but the cushion deadens the sound. It also makes the tile tighter in place. Once we get the sand set, everything's solid. Deadens the sound, it makes it a little bit nicer product.
Is it a game changer if you don't have that in there?
The sound is completely different.
So this is about the extra step for quality for your customer.
Yes.
Can you get by without it? Tell me, Mike, straight
What'll
up.
happen is our recommended method is the Silca mat and sand. That being said, if you don't want to go the Silca mat route, we recommend at least geotextile, and then we have our flexible spacer that will absorb some of the sound, but nowhere near to the degree the mat does.
So when these guys are going to get this for their own project, does it come, one dealer will handle all of this, so they're not going one place,
Correct.
another place, another place?
Correct. The matting comes from us, which comes from their dealer.
Okay.
The flexible spacers come from us, which would come from their dealer. If they decide to use the geotextile, you know, there's dozens of kinds out there they can use. As long as it's permeable, that's fine. Okay. And the sand, whatever your dealer's recommending for this tile or that tile, that's fine too. It just needs to be a polymeric sand that locks everything together.
That's good to know. Yeah. Any other tips or tricks these guys should understand while they're doing it?
Big thing, deck's got to be level. It can be pitched, but it's got to be flat and level. If it's not level, what happens is you'll get a rocking. You can make a standard wooden deck where it's a little bit off and the boards will bend enough to make up the discrepancy. Porcelain pavers don't bend that well.
They don't
hardly
bend
at all.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So
they crack over time.
So if it's not level, you'll get a wobbling. You can get an edge somebody could trip over. There's certain safety hazards you want to watch out for. And if the deck's level, the job is smooth. There's no problem.
Good to know. All right. Well, let's see how this goes. So is there anything specific we need to know as we lay the tape down, guys?
It's pretty simple. The idea behind the tape is if you look at an old deck, often where you see rot is around those screws because the moisture gets through there. This provides a seal to protect the top of that joist from rot.
You don't have to do anything special to pre-clean the surface before laying the tape down?
I normally wipe them off.
So no special prep really needed. One of the things too I need to point out is you use the same tape underneath the rafter hangers. I want to show something, Mike. We were talking about, you've got this overlapped over the actual timber framing.
Right.
And then you actually you stagger the joints. I've noticed that, right? Is that normal? Is that
well? You don't
intentional?
want screws right next to each other. It weakens the joist a little bit. I mean, not noticeably, but if you stagger them, you don't have that issue.
Okay.
Out here, we're not really supporting anything because it's supported by this. So at this point, these pieces are just blocking.
Okay.
Okay. When we run it over, you basically take a Sawzall and you follow the contour of your deck so that every piece that's cut is supported, because that's important.
Okay.
And it's very easy to get the shape of your deck. If you had in a regular shape, you just follow it along, cut it off as needed, and everything fits. Basically brace straps that go across the back. This provides side-to-side strength when you push down on it. It does flex. It's designed to flex. If it didn't flex with the freeze thaw and the movement of the deck, it'd break. But the strength here is from here to here. To go this way, these are the most important things, are these lines right here to strengthen it. So we want this to be in contact with the joist the whole way.
So let's be very clear. Your joist is here.
Right.
This is the strongest part. So really, you've got to get this grate system lined up with the joist so that you are hitting on the joist. You really shouldn't turn this tile sideways.
No.
So the orientation of the tile is critical to the overall success and longevity. If you guys install it bass backwards, it'll look fine right away, but I'm going to guess in 1 to 5 years, you're going to start to notice that flex, and that's going to be reflected into the tiles, which are going to probably start to crack, bend, break, give you weird edges.
The reason this works over, let's say, using plywood and putting a thin set down and putting a tile on, it's going to rot. No matter what you do, that's going to rot.
Okay.
If you decide to put cement on a deck with a tray, over time, cement doesn't flex at all, so as your deck moves, the cement will break up.
It'll crack, right?
This is designed to flex. You feel the flex?
Mike, have you ever had a job work exactly as planned?
Yeah, when I plan it. There's always something that goes wrong, whether it be the measurement's not quite right, or in this situation we have some lumber that's sagging, so we have to shim it up to make sure it's
Where's
level.
it sagging at?
See that moving?
So this low, that middle one is low.
The middle one's low. You can see the gap in there.
Yep.
So we'll have to shim that up to get everything level.
Are you going to shim it underneath, or where are you going to shim it at?
Underneath the grate. So on top of here.
So you're not going to lift up the whole joist?
No, we're just going to use a piece of shingle, provide a gap, and that will bring up the same level as this, so we don't create a ridge and have that stone rocking on it.
It's like roofing felt.
Oh. No, I think
no, let's do that again. No.
I got this. Ready? All right. Dang, that is dense. So this is the silica mat. Come on over here. Check this out. This is actually rubber membrane.
This is also a recycled product made from recycled tires.
Okay, so we're gonna lay the mat out. We gotta come right up to the edge. If you guys decide to cut like that, make sure you're cutting the right layer. We've been doing this a while, but it's easy to go too deep and to cut the roll beneath it. All right, guys, the easiest way to actually cut this, you saw us using a knife, a straight edge. Just go in the house and grab yourself a pair of scissors. It's gonna be the safest, fastest, easiest way to cut this stuff. It's heavy material, but it's not so heavy duty that a good old pair of Fisker's house scissors won't take care of it for you. Guys, what we're doing right now is we're just bringing the membrane up to the house and leaving just a slight fold so that it can catch the sand. The sand doesn't fall off. So if we left it, the sand could fall out. Guys, you're not gonna believe this. All right, the matting's down. The seams are taped. It's time to start putting some pavers down. All right, we're gonna crack into the tiles. Couple things, we've said it before, guys, is make sure your batches are the same, right, Phil? Out of the first tile is actually critical because it determines how many cuts on the entire project that you're going to be doing. So what we're actually talking about right now is we want to be able to minimize the amount of cuts, or at least hide them. We know we're gonna have cuts no matter what we do, but where they end up is determined by where we start.
That's exactly right.
We're gonna lay this out so that we can hide the cuts and make the least amount and the least difficult cuts possible.
That's exactly right.
All right, guys, since we're doing it on this membrane, the click and drop method that you'll typically see when you're building a paver patio, it's not really as necessary, is it? All right, guys, one of the things I want to point out, you can see that we're using spacers just to keep enough separation and consistency as we lay these tiles out. And then that also gives us our space for the silica sand. If we didn't use them, we'd probably be too tight to actually get sand into the joints. What do you notice? One bad tile in here, guys, and it happens. I mean, there's not going to be a perfect job, so I want to address this with you guys. So you can see right here. Okay, now go ahead and step on it. Watch right here. And the fix for that is we're going to put a little bit of flexible adhesive underneath that, and that's going to help soften that and cushion that and actually keep that from having that void space.
That should set overnight. That should stop that.
We've got our line scored. Now we're ready to cut. You got to go slow. I learned that the hard way the first time, but everybody got a good laugh out of it, except for the guy buying the tile. It's not a fast job, but it's one you can be proud of when you do it right. All right, so we're putting the actual porcelain tile over the stairs. You can see the grid system there, but what we're doing with this part of the build is we're putting the fascia board underneath. We're using a special bullnose tile as the stair edge, and we're going to use an inlay to compensate for the distance to the next stair riser. Also, another thing to take into consideration is the thickness of the tile so that you don't get too much of an overhang. Okay, so we're doing an inlay right next to the stairs, and this is just to highlight that transition from the deck to the step, and it's actually designed to pull some of the tan colors out of the tile. All right, guys, we're wrapping up the finishing touches on the deck, but we've got to make some tweaks to it before we're ready for the next step. Now, I want to show you guys something. If you come in here, you can see where our lines got off a little bit. Well, that's because we've been working and walking on this thing for 2 solid days. And we ended up actually using the wrong spacers. This is a flexible spacer. We should have used a stiff spacer, but it's not the end of the world. You see how this line is off? I'm just gonna use a screwdriver, pop my lines back in place to get ready for the next step, which is actually applying a polymeric sand. We don't use mortar, we don't use grout because it doesn't flex with the deck, but a polymeric sand, especially the right one, will flex and move as the deck flexes and moves as it goes through a freeze-thaw cycle or heats up from the sun. Now, the product that we're going to be using is actually made by Technoseal, and it's called Next Gel. After we get all these tiles tweaked and completely straightened out, we're going to put that down, and I'm going to show you how we use that. Okay, so we're getting ready to put the polymeric sand in. We got to pop out all of our spacers, and then we got to blow off the deck. We can't have any dirt, can't have any polymeric sand on any of the tiles any more than we have to. All right, so we're gonna put the polymeric sand down. Now you can dump and go, but I actually wanna just get it right where I gotta get it so that I can sweep it into the joint spaces. It's easier to add a little bit more than it is to subtract. A wise man once taught me that. One of the things to keep in mind, guys, you can't water this or sprinkle this like this. All of this extra polymeric sand's gotta come off the face of the tiles before you water it, because it will stick like glue. All right, guys, Phil is actually getting all of the polymeric sand set to the exact right height. He's actually kind of picky about that. Phil, you want to tell us what we should be looking for with this?
Well, you know, in my opinion, there's 2 ways to put polymeric sand in. You can dump it on here and you can rush and brush is the method that we refer to. You can take just a little bit of extra time. When I say extra time, I'm talking maybe 10 minutes just to get it set right, because it's so much easier to do it right the first time. Mist it in. Yes, you can add sand after you've misted it, but it's a little bit more of a pain. You gotta wait till everything dries again. So if you take a few extra minutes now in this step, it's gonna go a lot faster later and actually save you some time. So we just wanna get these joints just filled up enough. Not too much, not too little.
All right, guys, so we've swept the joints. Now we've got to actually blow them. One of the things to think about is you don't want to blow the sand out. You just took the time to get everything set. So you're not going to blow directly on the joint. You're just going to let the blower idle and blow in the center of the tile and kind of waft the sand away. To do with this process is get all the excess sand off from the top of the tile before we water it. The reason that's important is because once you activate or set the water on this polymeric sand, it sticks. Big no-no, putting your blower in, going to town like that. And before we can actually activate it, I want to get all of the excess sand off. I've got some here I want to sweep up, and this I want to get cleaned off. This is the point where you get really particular before you put that water in place, because once you do it, then the only way to get the excess off instead of using a blower is to